welcome back to our final interview for Queens in Wonderland. And I have the amazing and fabulous Chris Bannor, who not only contributed a story, we're all mad here, but also was the co-editor of this anthology. So saved the best for last for doing this interview. So welcome, Chris. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a LGBTQIA plus writer. I do science fiction and fantasy. Um, I have two kids, a dog and a cat. And that's kind of about it. That's me in a nutshell.
Which is awesome. And you've published a ton of short stories in a lot of other places. Do you have any idea how many you're up to?
I don't. I kind of stopped keeping track. I think it's more than 50 anthologies I've been in.
Yeah.
How many stories in that I don't know, because like some of those are travel anthologies and you get like 3 or 4 or 5 in there, and so I'm not entirely sure, but I know it's over 50.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you can really tell. And I know our viewers don't know this, but Chris and I have been friends for a very, very long time. And it's been amazing to watch her writing evolve. And she is just such an amazing short story writer. And it was such an honor to edit this with her. It was fun. So what drew you, other than I asked you, to being a part of this anthology?
Um, that's probably the number one, because this is my third anthology I've done with No Bad Books. And you when you do a lot of short story anthologies, like you find the publishers you like to work with. You find like the people that really get you and that understand what you're doing, and that you can really collaborate with. Um, some places don't give you much feedback. Some places just try to kind of blindside you with changes that they want to make. And you just have to find the right fit. And especially because I write science fiction and fantasy, and a lot of my short stories are also horror. I it's always a struggle to find places that will also accept the LGBTQIA plus aspect of it, because I don't write specifically for that audience. I want gay characters in science fiction and fantasy. I don't want stories that are just about that experience necessarily. So finding somebody who understands that and can work with that is always an amazing thing. So when you guys put out a call for stories, I'm always like, okay, put this on the calendar, need to get that one done. So that was a big draw for me. But I also I also know how excited you were about it, about using Wonderland for an LGBTQIA plus anthology. Um, and I was not really very knowledgeable about Wonderland before I took this on, but your excitement about that and the conversations we had about that really made me excited to be involved with this. And then I read it and I was like, of course, yes, this is so obviously a great world for us to get to play in. Um, and honestly, editing it, it's been amazing to see all the different ways people have interacted with the world or the characters, spinning new things on their own. It's just amazing and crazy how much people have done with this theme and just run with it.
I know that was one thing that amazed me. And I am a big fan of the Wonderland universe. I've read a ton of different iterations of it. And even with that, I was still so surprised because we have whimsy fantasy, we have horror fantasy, we have contemporary, who knows? There's sci-fi mixed in there. There's genre bendings with time travel in there. It blew me away that the amount of different genres that addressed
Wonderland and LGBTQIA characters. It was so, it's so incredible.
It was. I mean, I don't think I read a story in everything we were looking at. I mean, there were so many good stories. It was really hard to sit back and say which stories can and can't be in, because it's like no matter what you do, you're turning away stories that deserve a place.
Mm-hmm.
But it's amazing how much how many different things came up when people were writing for it, and the diversity
Mm-hmm.
of characters that came up too. I was really surprised and very happy about that.
Yeah, I was too. There's not just one representation throughout. It's very varied. So yeah. So tell us about your story, because that was hard for you to write.
It was. This was actually, I don't think I've had a harder time writing a short story. I went through 4 different stories before I got to this one. My first idea was this kind of Alice meets Wendy at an amusement park, almost like truck stop amusement park. It was like this completely different thing that I was trying to do. And I didn't get very far into it. And I was just like, this isn't right. Like, it's just not sitting well. And the next story was the same. Like, it just was not hitting. The third story I wrote, I loved, but I was trying to write horror, and I went with one of my favorite horror movies, which was Battle Royale. It really just turned into fan fiction. It was just like Wonderland and Neverland thrown into Battle Royale. And so I was like, no, I love this story, but no, it can't go into an anthology. But
But a novel one day.
But finally I was like, okay, so I really wanted to write a horror story. And I really didn't.
It is horrible.
It's horrific, but
it's not horror.
horror.
And it's gut-wrenching. Because when you sent it over, you said, I think I figured it out, because it made me cry when I was doing my final read through. And then I was like, okay. And then I was reading it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful, but oh my
Why'd you do that?
gosh.
But I finally settled on I wanted to write a story about well, my original thought was, cosmic horror, and what is, more absolutely terrifying than time.
Mhm.
And that kind of turned into this story of time, and how the Mad Hatter is accused of killing time. And that kind of morphed into where the story ended up. I don't want to say too much.
No. But it's brilliant.
It was very hard though. I've never written for an anthology where I had to do so many stops and starts. But I think I was just very passionate about getting something good on page for this. And I do think it's one of my favorite short stories I've ever written. So I'm very excited to get it out and let people see it and see what they think.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. So so before we get to the reading, where can our viewers find out more about you?
Well, you can always find my website. I'm just chrisbannor.com. But my favorite place to hang out these days is on my Ream page. So you can find me there at www.reamstories.com/chrisbanner.
Awesome. And for our viewers that don't know, Ream is actually serialized fiction. And Chris has a lot of stories there that you can go and you can check out. So if you're not familiar with Ream, go check it out. It's fun. It's up and coming, but it's really fun. You can follow
So-
me for free. There's some free stories on there if you check out. It's a fun place to hang out.
All right, ready for the reading?
I hope so. Let's go.
You got this.
All right, so picking the piece to read, I just decided to go with the opening because I don't want to give away too much what happens in the story. So here we go. I've always been a bit mad, you see, even as a child. Curiosity plagued me and ate away at my mind. I didn't always find the right answers to the questions, but it was my answer, and that was good enough. I had a name once too, but when the queen calls you her hatter and the hatter, no one contradicts her. I've quite forgotten now. My name, not the queen. I had one though, before the queen, before time, and the hat. The hat was not as wonderful as time, but an amazing thing to have all the same. It came to me on a sunny day as I walked along the flower fields, ignoring the roses as they threw insults at my beautiful jacket. I raised my hand to shade my eyes, and when I set my foot down, it wasn't grass at all. Laying under my foot was a beautiful green top hat. I looked around to see who it belonged to, but there was no one there but me and the flowers. Must be a gift, I said to myself. I crouched down next to it, examined the narrow velvet rim, and noted the slightly squished sides. I picked it up and brushed it off, gently wiping to remove any trace of my foot. It wasn't quite new looking when I was done, but I like a stylish hat, so I popped it on top of my head and carried on with my journey. The day wasn't uneventful otherwise. After a rousing dinner and drinks with March Hare, I returned home and set my fine new hat on the table. I took a chair next to it and contemplated whether a red or purple bow would look better on the hat band. But a voice interrupted my thoughts. Well, this looks like a safe enough place to embark. I looked down at my marvelous hat and saw a small man standing on the brim, just outside a door. I'm certain there'd been no door before, let alone a man. What are you doing on my hat? I demanded. Your hat, is it? The man asked. Set us on the floor then and let's see. I'm not used to strange men in my hat giving me orders, so in my confusion, I did as he asked without delay. I'd no sooner set it down than the man disappeared through the door, which disappeared as well, and the hat began to grow. The hat forced the table and chairs to the side, and I feared for the windows before it finally stopped. A jingle of metal announced the doorknob's appearance, and the door opened. The man, now a little taller than me, stepped out, smiling very proudly to himself. Yes, this is quite the place to step out. He was the most beautiful man that I had ever seen. My heart stopped, my breath caught in my throat. Time seemed to stop altogether when our eyes met. He let out a breathless sigh and smiled. Oh, it's you. It's you, I said in return, which made no sense, except it did in that moment, and that's all that I ever really needed. Do you know me? He asked. I shook my head. But I will forevermore be able to see I do. And isn't that something? It's the best kind of something, he said as he stepped off the brim of the hat and into the small space that was left of the room. It was only an arm's length away, but I wanted to close the distance between us. Who are you? I asked. Time, he said as he gently laid his hand on my cheek. You found the hat I left for you. Oh, well, it all makes perfect sense now.
Awesome. And this is from We're All Mad Here. So thank you. And I will also add that Chris has a theater background as well. And she
It was
did
coming up a little bit there.
It really was. It was brilliant. Okay, so this concludes our author interviews for Queens in Wonderland. Hope you all enjoyed this series. If you are interested in purchasing this book, it is available in all the places. If you are interested in autographed copies, just go to www.nobadbookspress.com and you can go ahead and purchase them on there. Anything else to add, Chris?
Nope, I hope you guys enjoy the anthology. It's got some great authors and some great stories, so check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, take care, everyone. Bye.